John Darvel on BBC Radio Bristol.
So today is a very big day for more than 700,000 teenagers and their parents who are receiving their GCSE results. GCSEs in England have been overhauled in recent years. They've been made tougher. There's a new numerical system to them, 9 to 1, 9 being the top grade, 1 being the bottom. Some head teachers are saying that lower attaining pupils have been demoralised by these exams, and indeed some have refused to sit them. Now, GCSEs are important, but they are not the be-all and end-all, as Jason Connolly from Dundry is living proof of that. Jason grew up in Kent and went to a school that was deemed unacceptable for having the worst GCSE results in England, which didn't bode very well, particularly for Jason, who's with me now. Just so we set the stall out clearly.
Yes.
How many GCSEs did you get?
John, I got 5 GCSEs in total. I went to Temple School, which was a school in Kent. I lived in London, but what happened was the 11 plus, which was a system, the grammar school system in Kent. I didn't sit that when I moved to Kent, so I was just in that crossover period.
Right.
So I remember that the plan was we saw this lovely school up on the hill in Rochester in Kent, and then realised that wasn't that I couldn't go to that school. So the alternative was across the river. In an area, and we never got to do science experiments because of fears with Bunsen burners. So it wasn't the most kind of inspiring educational environment. But I think my highest GCSE was a C. But I think for me it was all about feeling engaged. And when you're just copying out of textbooks, it doesn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, education works on various levels. I mean, I suppose the fundamental of education is it teaches you how to learn and follow instructions, which, you know, you sort of need if you're going to be able to put together a IKEA wardrobe, or it teaches you how you have to learn, you know, a particular job or a function within that job, and without understanding education, you're going to struggle to do that.
Exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head there. And funny you mentioned IKEA instructions, as that's what I spent last night trying to do, John, with absolutely little luck. But I think that there's a time and a place for education and degrees. And in my company, JMC, what we obviously we deal in the business of lawyers, so we understand that more than anyone. But I think that for me, it was the experience of life, and recruitment ultimately is an industry of dealing with people. And when I left school, I think one of my first jobs after doing the magic was washing up dishes, very inspiring. But I went on to work for Virgin Atlantic. I applied. They're a prime example of a business that don't hire based on the degrees. It's all about the people and the customer service.
Which, I mean, we'll come to that later. But I just want to go back, because magic obviously was the first thing you did, wasn't it? Now, where did that come from?
I think I can't. My mum would obviously have to remind me where it was, but I think we went to a holiday resort, an all-inclusive, and they had a magician for the children. And my mum bought me a magic kit, and it went from there. I went to a society called Medway Magical Society, and it kind of sounds like a bit of a Hogwarts. There was people of wizards of all ages, shall I say, John? But I kind of got the desire for it then, and I started busking in Covent Garden. I was doing it's actually quite organised up there. I thought it was just a case of turning up on a street corner, but it's a military operation.
It's all pitches, isn't it? Yeah, you don't just rock up and get your card tricks out.
Well, it was a friend of mine.
Card.
Not
that card.
Yeah. Well, I've had many moments like that, John, actually, but we won't go there. But I think that when you would turn up in the morning, 6 o'clock, you'd have to take your ticket, and you would sometimes be lucky you get the morning and the evening slot. But I was in my element, I think, when I was a young man performing magic, having people laugh, and it was great, having gone from a school that was uninspiring. So I think in answer to your question, GCSEs, they do bear a relevance, and I'm never going to be an advocate to any young person of not sticking to your degrees, but I think what's really important is to have that passion. What do you want to achieve in life? And I always tell lawyers every single day when we're on the phone to them, it's not about your next role. It's about where do you want to be in 5 and 10 years time, and then plan backwards, because then you're more likely to reach your goals.
So you go from magician to working in a kitchen, and I think everybody I've ever known has always done a couple of rubbish jobs. I've cleaned toilets, I've bottled up in pubs, and I've worked in kitchens chopping tomatoes into eighths.
Yes.
I've done all of that. And I don't knock any one of those jobs, because my late stepfather always told me, if you're going to sweep the streets, sweep them clean. it has a value, doesn't it? It has a
does.
value. So, and it's always about leading you somewhere. You may not even think of it at the time that it's going to go anywhere, but it does take you somewhere.
It does indeed, and I think that even in JMC, we don't hire based on qualifications. What we look for is people with a good attitude, irrelevant of where they work, and people that have got that drive. And I think that there is a generational thing at the moment where I think younger people maybe don't realise what happened generations ago. Things aren't just handed on a plate. Benefits aren't just, one of the first questions that we sometimes get asked by junior lawyers is, what's the benefits package before even the role, John? But it's, what's really important is people having that drive and that desire and good advice. And I think that what schools should be doing is the main agenda should be to inspire people for their next stage of life.
I'm guessing that there's an element of performance in your life, because we'll take a pause for a song by Leon, and we'll talk specifically about the business you set up in 2016. But if you're performing in Covent Garden or you are a steward on Virgin Atlantic, you are performing. You are the face of Virgin Atlantic. You are the face of your magic. There is an element of performance there.
There is actually. Virgin put a big, real importance on that. What we'd actually do is we'd have to do training where you would have fake ovens in their hangar in Crawley, and you would go along pretending to give out the food just to get that service
chicken or beef.
Right.
Yeah,
But, do you know what? We were not allowed to say that, John. It had to be chicken casserole or beef stroganoff.
Oh, right, so you couldn't say chicken or beef. Because I've been, the previous flight I was on, they did the chicken or beef thing, and I said beef, and they said, we haven't got any beef. And I think, well, why did you ask me that?
I think that probably says more about the airline you flew with, John, than
I think it probably does. But I mean, it's not just that. There's the security element. But of course, you are the face of the business. You are, and if you get it wrong, or your colleagues get it wrong, chances are customers aren't going to go back to that airline. Well, even if the price is good.
Well, I've always lived of the belief that, it takes a long time to build up a good relationship, a good brand, and it takes a moment, a click of the fingers for that to be eroded. So every customer interaction, of course it's important. We are the face. I'm the face of JMC, but so are every other member of my colleagues are, because we're
to the
all
most junior member of staff, because they're the one who could cock it up.
Well, this is where companies go wrong. A lot of the time, the person who answers the phone is the most lowest paid person. They are the face of the company, John.
Yeah, this shocking, isn't it? So you do that for 3 years. You do that for 3 years. I suppose is there a lifespan for stewards, for cabin crew?
I would say there probably is, because the job is actually really tiring. On an average week, I would spend the Monday morning going to New York, back on the Wednesday, then by Friday flying out to Hong Kong. And I was diabetic as well at the time of doing it, so it was, my body didn't know whether it was coming or going. But I've still got a very few friends that are still in Virgin now, that were on my original course, which was over 10 years ago now. So
it's one of those things that it seems glamorous. It's blooming hard work.
Yes.
And there's only a point at which you can keep doing that sort of shift and those sorts of iterations again and again and again before you start to go slightly insane, I would imagine.
I think so, John, but I think ultimately it's a great job to do if you're young, if you're in your early 20s, to build your confidence, to show you the world, to show you different cultures. What is there not to like about it? But I do think there's a lifespan on it, but it's been the foundation that's led me on to great things. So, I'm endorsing it.
I tell you what, let's hear from Leon now, their latest single, and then we'll talk more about those foundations which led you to set up a business in Bristol back in 2016. Our guest this morning, talking about to be honest, poor GCSE results to a business with 20 employees turning over 2 million. More from Jason after Leon. How good is that? Leon and Falling on BBC Radio Bristol. Time still for you to make a request for today's 3 to 12. You need to tell me what you want to hear, and then I'll do my very best to play it for you. Old, new, rock, punk, funk, fusion, jazz, swing, electro. I've run out of genres. 08000 855 94 acid. Tell me what you want to hear. 08000 855 949. We play your requests from 11:45 every single day. We call it the 3 to 12. Still with me is Jason Connolly from Dundry, who we've gone from magician to cabin crew for Virgin Atlantic. You left Virgin Atlantic after 3 years and joined the police.
Yeah,
Do you like uniforms?
Do you know what? It's almost like that film with Leonardo DiCaprio, John, Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised no one's actually accused me
Has someone caught you?
No one has yet. I'm managing to pull quite the act. But I think with the police, it was when they were recruiting for the Olympics. And I remember at the time, I lived in a house share with 2 other people. And one of the guys there had said he'd applied as well. So what had actually happened is he'd gone to this police course where you had to pay about £500 to help you get into the police. And his interview was 2 weeks before mine. So I remember I went on the day for him to run through a few pointers. And let's just say, John, it wasn't a few pointers. It was book upon book. So he got his result a couple of weeks later, called me up when I was on a trip and he didn't get in. And his life, it was at the time over, John.
It was, yeah.
And then I got my letter assuming that I definitely hadn't got in. And I'd got in. So by default, I'd
imagine you probably had to sell that to your friends.
No, I did. But it was, I remember just arriving on my first day in Hendon where the Met do their training. And to say it was intense is an understatement. And it taught me a lot.
So it should be, though.
Yeah.
I mean, so it should be, because police officers, policing by consent, it's, as we know, only from the news of the last week, it's exacting. It's dangerous, and you are upholding the law. But you're also dealing with people, aren't you? It's people. It's relationships.
You are. And I remember one lesson I got taught really early on in my policing career by a fellow officer, which was you always go into a situation keeping it low, keeping it calm so you can go up. And it's amazing what you can do, with words and speaking to people. But, I've been in situations where I wouldn't say I'd feared for my life, but I definitely felt that, danger was coming. And even when I was in the police, which I left a number of years ago, it was understaffed. We'd regularly be going out in vehicles by ourselves, and the information that comes in through the control centre is never 100% accurate. So there are risks, and I do think the police need more money. Having experienced that myself.
Well, we know the police are now recruiting. The Chief Constable sitting where you're sitting 2 weeks ago, looking to recruit about 800 officers for Avon and Somerset Police, which is good news based on the change in government. But let's just move you forward now, because through all this, clearly nothing was really 100%, was it?
No, I kind of always knew that people was my bag, but I think when I joined the police, obviously I was there for the worst, and it was a negative environment to work in. Every single day you go into the worst day of someone's life. So what I did was I decided, what is it I can do to make the income I want, to live my dreams, to fulfill my destiny. So I looked into recruitment, and I'm sure as many other people have, when you go on the internet, I think you even said your son John is in recruitment.
Yeah, my eldest son works in Bristol. Yeah.
Right, fantastic. Well, when I went online, there was loads of opportunities, but I started at an agency. The training I had, I think I was sold a dream, John, that I'd be driving around in a Mercedes by the first year, and it was more like a tram pass, to be quite honest. But what I wasn't in the best situation. I'd taken a massive pay cut, and what I did was I really invested in myself, listened to loads of literature, tried to understand the psychology of what makes people tick, and it's through that I started my own agency, which I chose Bristol because I'd actually come to a Massive Attack concert here on Clifton Downs. Not always the best basis to base a relocation off of, John, but it ticked boxes, and there's a thriving legal scene here every single day. We're talking to lawyers who want to relocate to Bristol, and I'm sure that's...
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of a city like Bristol, because it is. I've lived in London. It is like London, but within 5 minutes you're in the countryside, and you are with communications and obviously electrification and what have you. Although it hasn't arrived at Temple Meads, but it is a parkway. You are not far from any centre, Birmingham or London. And I would imagine here you've got people, you're probably falling over lawyers who want to come to our part of the world.
Well, we are. Law firms are growing. Obviously, the cost per seat in London is skyrocketing on rent. So what law firms are doing is sending more work out to these regions. And there's a lot of talent arriving every single day. And we even see it coming through our doors at JMC. There's a fantastic wealth of graduates who are ambitious, budding. And we set, all we're looking for ultimately is ambitious people, and there's loads of those arriving every single day, which, you know, a lot of people don't want to be doing the 3-hour round commute to London and back.
But that's, I mean, if you think about it there, Jason, from a school where you couldn't do science experiments because the Bunsen burners were unsafe, to pitching in Covent Garden doing magic, to running your own business. Where are we now? The notes you sent, 20 employees, 2 million turnover in 3 years?
We haven't even had our third, fully finished our third year of trading, and we've already turned over 2 million. We're on track to do more than that next year, and it's all down to the fantastic team that we have. And it draws back to the people. Some of the people in the business do have degrees, but some people don't. And quite interestingly, it's some of the people that haven't had degrees that have initially taken to it the best. So it's that life experience.
So it's about people, isn't it? It's about people. And I suppose that's about engaging the audience by performing a magic trick, all the way through to engaging staff to work with you, because they've got to buy into what you are doing, your proposition, and then obviously getting the right candidate for the right job. And then again, is about relationships and people.
It is. I think that too many companies spend too much time. So an example, John, if someone wants to progress, why give them hoops to jump through? Why not listen to where they want to be and help them get there? If you motivate someone, you don't have to target them because they want to be there. Everything is about people, and this is where companies get it wrong. If you're going to use someone, have someone in your company and they just feel like they're there to make money, that's not a great thing.
We were debating in our first hour this morning. There's another company in Bristol, a marketing company, giving their staff, working their staff 4 days a week, not 5 days a week, which I know is a bit of a thread coming through the business of, I'm doing rabbit ears around the phrase working from home. I'm working from home. Are you? I mean, really, are you? You know, is it Eamon and Ruth doing this morning as opposed to Phil and Holly? Do you believe that we are heading towards that flexible working?
Well, firstly, John, I think you're getting me in hot water with my staff here, because I'm sure they're all listening back in our Queen Square office. So, no, lots of companies are doing it, and even law firms we work with, autonomous working, agile working, flexibility. It's all about ensuring you've got the best people, and if it means they're going to work from home, I think the question to ask is, if you don't want to give these benefits, is it because you're hiring the wrong people that you don't trust them?
So about the rigidity of the 9 to 5, what a way to make a living, as opposed to the 21st century way of working.
Even now, John, you would go into some law firms in central London that are a bit quirkier, where they're wearing their own clothes. It's not lawyers in shirts and ties anymore. People want to do business with a person. They want a lawyer to be their business advisor, not just their lawyer. So I think we're all moving towards a more kind of agile working state at the moment.
Last couple of questions. Could you have set up your business in 2016 if you hadn't have performed magic in Covent Garden?
I would say it's a difficult question. I think yes, because I think Virgin and the police gave me a lot of experience. But I think what the magic did give me is that sort of at 16 years old, that desire to make my own money, me working for myself, and it was enjoyable. But I think that what happened was that hobby became a profession at a very young age, and lines started to blur. So I think it's now, having revisited working for myself years later, it fits.
And here you are working for yourself. When you opened that business in 2016, are you where you thought you were, or are you way ahead of where you thought you would be?
We're way ahead.
I mean, one has ambition, of course, and I'm not saying that you weren't ambitious, but 20 staff, 2+ million turnover, not even at the end of year 3. That would have been a very ambitious plan the moment you turned the key on the door the first day.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there again, John, because it was never in part of the plan for it to be this successful. But I think that what we've got in the office is a culture of everyone coming in, people changing their lives financially. We've had young guys come in who are 24 and be making 6-figure salaries in 18 months. So it's great. And it's just a fun place to work.
Well, good luck with it.
Thank you.
Jason Connolly, who set up JMC Legal Recruitment back in November 2016 from Dundry. Thank you very much for sharing your story with me this morning.
Thanks for having me in.